Hi, everybody. Welcome to Living with Annietude, live on LinkedIn as well as YouTube. I have a guest tonight, and she has not arrived yet. And her name is Reena Friedman Watts. She is the podcast host of Better Call Daddy. And I'm going to tell you why I could never. Oh my God, she just pulled up. There she is. I was going to tell you really quick before I bring her in why I could never hold this against her, but I'll tell you why when I bring her in. Hold on, here she is. Everyone, welcome Reena.
Hi.
This is what happens to me, okay? Like every week at 8:00 when I hit the live button, my gratitude alarm goes off because it's set for 8:00 daily, right? But I always forget it's going to go off. My guest undoubtedly isn't there yet, which is fine. I was just going to explain why it's totally fine because I completely understand that everything's going on and it's hard to do. But it's like every week I'm nervous. I'm like thinking about a million things I'm going to talk about. What am I going to, I'll just talk for a half hour. Maybe she couldn't make it. And then alas, you show up. So thank you for coming. Hi.
I didn't leave you hanging.
No, you didn't. And I have to tell you that this was, I just made it by the skin of my teeth also. I was a real legit soccer mom tonight. I had back-to-back conference calls. I jumped in the car. I fed my kids. I got my girl to soccer. I got back. My son was hungry, so I'd make him dinner. And so this is why I'm dressed like this and I look like this and I'm like trying to figure out life right now. So welcome, Reena. How are you?
I'm doing well. I can relate. I'm a mom of 4.
I know you are. That's why. Hi, David. David Munford is here. I am. So that was going to be my whole thing. I was going to talk for, if God forbid something happened and you didn't make it, I was going to talk for half an hour about why you can never judge anybody's schedule, like especially us moms and dads. It is so unpredictable. I had a meeting today and the woman had to reschedule with me because her son got appendicitis. She was in the emergency room. Hi, Renzo. Renzo used to be my manager. It's really funny that he's on. Hi, I haven't seen you or talked to you in so long. Soccer rules. And it's just a crazy time. Like I feel like everything we do, tell me if I'm wrong, but everything we do just sort of backs up to the other thing you're doing. Like there's never just like a minute to breathe. You have to like schedule that time. I feel like, does that happen to you?
I need to schedule time to breathe. That would be fantastic.
So both of us are on the same page then where we just completely don't schedule any time to breathe, really, even though I preach that. So I probably should say that I do. I do. I try to get a minute in there, a couple of minutes where I center myself or else I'll go completely crazy. But, I'm like, let's go, get off the field, get in the car. I got a podcast, like this is my life. Eat. He wants something to eat. I'm making stuff in the kitchen. The pan is still hot. It's frying. And I got you like popping on. So good evening, America's Supermom. Oh my God, everybody's saying hi to us. Hi, Lachelle. How are you? You are popular, girlfriend. I don't usually have this many people coming on and saying hi. So exciting. So tell me about you. Tell me about your podcast and how this started and where the idea came from. And I'm sure you've answered this question a million times, but let's tell our audience.
So I got my start in television almost 20 years ago.
That's not possible since you're 25. It's not possible.
Thanks. Mom.
Yeah.
And I've really worked behind the scenes of a lot of greats for many years. And my dad always wanted me to have my own show. And I was like, all right, Daddy, it's time. And you're going to be a part of the show too. So that's where the idea came from. My dad has just been in my ear for years, always wanting to push me in front of the camera. I went to a youth performing arts school in high school. And again, he was trying to push me out onto stage, but I always preferred behind the scenes. I worked in production for really the first half of my career. I worked for a talk show, which then led me to LA. And then I worked for VH1 and a bunch of reality TV shows and worked as a field interviewer and a post-production supervisor and an editor and an interviewer and just...
You did everything.
I did everything. And then I met someone online, had 3 kids in 4 years, still kept my foot in the door by working in casting and working in court TV where I was pulling cases for court TV shows for years.
Yeah.
So I knew what made a good story. Because I used to rummage through all these files and pull the stories and upload them and try to do it fastest. And I had that like news junkie in me.
Right.
And so I've kept in touch with people all throughout the years and all of the places that I've lived. And I was like, how amazing would it be to just catch up with people and learn from people and amplify voices and then add my dad's unique perspective, which I'm constantly reaching out to my dad and getting his advice.
So that's what I wanted to know. Like, have you always been really close with him? Has he always, like, my dad and I are very close. He's a mentor of mine. Like, he's my mentor, I would say, but he's not like somebody that I would have. I mean, he would be like, it's just not that kind of relationship. Maybe he would come once, but like, I'm like careful. I don't want to bother him at work. Like, tell me about how you developed this relationship.
So my dad is an entrepreneur. My grandparents were entrepreneurs, and I've been in the entrepreneurial space for about 2.5 years, really right up until COVID. I was working for someone full time. She was a client, and then she asked me to go full time with her. And I did that for about 7 months. But then once all 4 of my kids were homeschool,
I can't relate. It's so simple to homeschool. You just, it's fine. It's great. I love it.
So then I went back to, okay, I need to take clients when I can, and I need to take less of them. And and my dad has just helped me navigate all of that.
That's awesome. So he's sort of like new, coming from your direction, like what to do. And he's your go-to, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
The podcast around him. So what's been your like craziest so far? Like you've seen some stuff. So what's been like your story that you tell over a glass of wine to somebody if they want to hear about one of your stories?
For the podcast or just in casting in general?
Either one. I would love both.
Well, I watched Jeffrey Epstein's special on Netflix and was just blown away by that story. And then I reached out to a couple of the survivors, and one of them agreed to do my show. She said that she had not agreed to be on anyone else's show other than Netflix and mine. And I was like, okay, I'm on to something here.
Yeah, doing something right. Yeah.
So that was a big one. And then I reached out to a sponsor who had worked an event that I had worked behind the scenes of. And I said, hey, your brand is non-conventional. I also am. I'm going to be covering stories that not everybody would. And I'd worked with influencers that didn't want to work with this brand because it wasn't aligned with them. But I was like, hey, if you want to be a part of this pre-launch, I'll give you a bargain. But once I start blowing this up, the price is going up too.
Right.
And I got a sponsor pre-launch. That was insane.
Wow.
So
you're pretty good at what you do. I mean, I commend you for doing everything that your networking abilities are just through the roof. Obviously. I mean, you kept your foot in the door, being pregnant, having kids year after year, like keeping sort of, you kept it afloat. And that's really, really hard to do as a mom, and just to keep current and keep your hands dirty in it. That's like pretty amazing. So I have to commend you for that.
Thank you. I did take some time off with,
as you should,
with the first one, but then by the second and third, I was like, okay, I want to work part-time alongside these two.
Yeah.
And then my fourth one, there was like an 8-year gap. So I was having career momentum. And then I had a 3-pound baby and an emergency C-section. I was like, well, he's in the NICU and the nurses are watching him, so I could take some clients alongside this. But after working like the first 7-8 months of my new baby, I did hit a moment where I was like, okay,
yeah,
I need to slow down. He is growing up. He's almost a year old, and I've been nursing him while on the phone with clients.
Yeah. Sometimes, when you have that fight in you, like I feel like we have, like that just grit, it feels weird not to be productive and doing something, but we have to remember too that being a mom is a job. So like it was productive, and you were like raising life and having, keeping 4 children alive and flourishing. So, but it's in our head. I think we're the same type of people where it's like, well, what am I doing? Where am I going? Like, what's my next step? Like, what am I building? And it's like, sometimes it's good to just, like you did, take a step back, not for long, obviously, but
I think COVID made us all do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, COVID changed everything, changed the whole platform and everything that we do, and the trajectory of our careers and lifestyles and relationships in every way.
It's funny because in the beginning of COVID, I was like, wow, for the first time, I was just like, you know what? My kids don't feel good today, and I'm fine letting you know that. Or can't make that meeting today, and fine letting you know that. And
Yeah.
I had such a hard time doing that for so many years. And I feel
Hmm.
like COVID gave us like a new permission to be like, letting
Yeah. I
people
mean,
through.
it's oh, here I have like a bunch of people saying hi. I always feel badly like when I'm not like pressing the comments. They kind of make me, does this happen to you? They kind of make me nervous. Hey Raquel, this is so cute. They make me like a little anxious when they're piling up on the side. Hi Maureen. Oh my gosh, these are like the nicest, sweetest people. This excites me. I don't know, maybe because I'm like a 41-year-old mom and I'm just like, this is this kind of stuff that excites me. That people are saying hi. Oh, Russ, love him.
Aw.
Woo-hoo. So anyway, sorry to interrupt you. So I think it gave us, that is like living with Annietude, right? Like the whole sort of silver lining on things that this is by far not only given us an excuse, but it's given us, I wouldn't even call it an excuse. I don't know what the word is, but it's given us room, a little bit of room to sort of breathe. As much as everything is changed and is like, in our face, the connection that it's created. And I think at least my willingness to connect with like everyone around me and grow this network, it's given us room to do that. Does that make sense?
I also think that it's given us accessibility to people that we might not have accessibility to because
Absolutely.
everybody's in the same situation.
Yep. So it's like an even playing field.
100%.
Yeah. And it's given us permission to like, it's true, Russ, we are all impacted. It's given us permission to sort of like, I've always been really bold. Like it's funny, your story reminds me of mine because I went to school, I went to BU and I went for broadcast journalism for sports. And I just never could get in front. It's like my mom told me that I had to, like, I know a lot about sports and, get in front of the camera. It's so your personality. And I just never could do it. So I like totally didn't end up doing that. And, now we have both followed the same path where, we did other things and now we have our podcast. So it's kind of interesting that our stories align like that. But what I was going to say was this has just been such an interesting time. Like I've always been really bold, but I would reach out to anyone now. Like I don't know if this has made you more comfortable, but I feel like so not entitled by any means, but just comfortable with like, everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time, like you said, even playing field. Like, do you feel that you have become more bold or?
It's funny. I was just talking to someone right before this who's new to LinkedIn, and she just got a new position as a fundraiser. And I also helped that organization on a volunteer basis a couple of years ago because I believe in their cause. And I said to her, you've got the list. You don't know who these people are. Yes, they're, into philanthropy and whatnot, but just you've got limited, hours in your day and you're a mommy and she's giving you these resources. Just reach out to them and be personable and don't act like they're any different or better than you.
Because truly, like, they're not. I mean, just because like someone holds a really high, a C-suite position or, runs a company or whatever it is they do, like we're just as important. I mean, maybe they'll blow me off, but then I get blown off. Nothing from nothing is nothing, right? Like I don't have anything to lose. So I just sort of feel like much more, maybe this is also my age and maturity, like much more confident in my ability to network. And I don't know if that's COVID or just like my network has grown so much in just the last few months because of the energies that I'm putting into it. And I don't know I don't know exactly why that reason, but I think it's what you're saying, which is like sort of that permission, that like space has been created where it's almost okay now.
I also think that if you don't second guess yourself, then others won't either.
Well, exactly. Well, it's all knowledge is power, first of all. Second of all, it's all in our perspective. We are who we think we are, right? Like if you're walking down the street and you feel really good about who you are and what you do, and you believe in your brand and you believe in what you're doing and your cause and your mission, who the hell is anybody to question you? Like you are what you believe.
And people also believe what you believe. It kind of goes back to that whole like improv thing, the yes and. Like
Mhm.
if you believe it, then somebody else is going to believe it and believe it even more.
And the domino effect. Yeah, totally. I'm with you. And it's like perception is reality, right? Like if I told you I was, queen of Jabipland, and I thought it and said it and believed it and told you the reasons why and told you my family members, told you some facts about it. Like, why would you question that? You would be like, she's queen of Jabipland.
I also think that it's really great to have a podcast and to have a platform because it's a nice thank you for if you've done business with someone. You could say, hey,
Absolutely.
like yesterday, I reached out to a children's book author that I wanted a blurb from for one of my clients. And then I was like, and by the way, I'm a mompreneur of 4 and I have a podcast. So if you give me a blurb, then I would love to have you on my show.
Right. It's like a gift, It's like not a favor for someone to come on. It's exciting for people and they want to be heard and they want to talk about what they're doing. I think I've yet to have somebody say, no, I don't want to do that. I mean, so tell me about that.
Once so far. Yeah. She was a best-selling author and a TEDx speaker. And it's really funny because she gave me a blurb for my client and then was like, well, we'll wait to see how your stats are doing in 6 months from now. I'm like, that's fine. I was just offering you the platform.
Wow. Wow. That's interesting. It's kind of not how I look at things. Like it's really less about that. But, I mean, whatever, to each his own, but it's a little bit on the strange side to say no to somebody like that. Like, let's see how you're doing. Let's see if you can make it. It's like,
she's like, I'm really impressed that you have 2 sponsors and you just started. I was like, thanks.
And she's like, and I'll check you back in 6 months and see if I'll be willing to come on your podcast. Yeah.
I was like, let me know.
Yeah, totally. You should totally follow up with that person. You got to get that person on there and just be like, yeah, I mean, look how well I'm doing. Look at this. This is awesome.
I honestly have a wait list. So either way, I'm like, whatever.
It's so funny. Like I find the same thing, Reena, like I'm who am I? I am who I say I am. I'm living with Annietude. That's my podcast, right? It's not like this unbelievably huge thing. It's not, it's just me and guests. And I'm booked through January. Like, who am I? Like, you know what I mean? Wow. Like, how does it even happen? It's like you have people waiting, like it's people want to talk about themselves. People want to be heard, I find it interesting that anybody would ever say no. But again, to each his own. But so tell me about what else, like, what do you want the audience member? It goes really fast. It's already almost 8:20, but tell me about like what you want to tell the audience about you and what you do and, what you want them to know.
I wanted to ask you a quick question because it's really interesting. My first college that I went to on a singing scholarship, I majored in sports med, which is interesting that we have that in common as well. And then I switched to broadcast communications. So that's really interesting.
It is.
Did you ever have like an internship or work alongside a sports team?
I interned for the Boston Bruins, being a huge Philadelphia Flyers fan. So it was kind of difficult being like interning and that was what the hardest part was for me, like pretending to sort of root for another team. I'm such a diehard Philadelphia person, but it was a great experience. I mean, I got to work for a great organization. So I did their media relations. I was an intern. I got college credit for that. But really, I found that I was missing a lot of the games. Sounds ridiculous, but like I was missing a lot of the games. Like during it, I was doing things that like, had to be really hands-on. And the same thing was why I just didn't want to I didn't want to be on the sidelines talking, about football, which was my sport, that I love so much and that is my blood. So I didn't want to be on the sidelines like and missing like part of the game. So it was like, I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's sort of why I didn't end up doing it.
Well, I mean, that's okay. I actually wasn't into the games. I was into the athletes.
Well, I can't say that, that wasn't part of it too. Definitely understandable. I get it. So were you trying to be like the Cameron Diaz in Any Given Sunday type thing or?
Well, I was into fitness. So it was a combination of wanting to learn those modalities. I did a lot of like the rehab stuff, like learning how to tape ankles and ice injuries and
I'm just kidding. Sure, that's what you did.
taping shoulders. Yeah.
So,
I did that for a couple of years, and then I tried to switch into the pre-med program at Purdue, but then after like 500 clinical hours, I was like, this is not what I want to do. So I got a job at an NPR station in college, and I thought that I wanted to work in radio, actually. That's why the podcast is so much fun now, too, because I love the one-on-one. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a big crowd, even though there's people messaging us. Like, I feel much more comfortable just having one-on-one conversations versus speaking in front of a room full of people. I actually don't enjoy that.
Yeah, that's not my favorite thing. And I've been asked recently to do like a bunch of speaking engagements. And I know that that's sort of where my career is taking me, but it's not, even after graduating with a communications degree and doing all the things I've done and being in sales and giving presentations like in pharmaceuticals and stuff, it's not my favorite thing. Like, it's like, this is much more intimate and personal. And I find out a lot more and I can learn a lot more and ask better questions. Whereas like when I'm performing, you know, like presenting and performing, I sometimes feel like I'm going to freeze up. At least the anxiety gets to me sometimes.
Do you have any team that you work with, or are you just doing it all yourself?
As far as living with Annietude and the podcast and everything, I mean, Mike Paterano is like my business manager. Like he does pretty much, I don't do a whole lot without, you know, talking it over with him. But other than that, it's totally by myself. Yeah, there's no team. It's just me.
My
so
goodness.
it's now, how often are you recording? Like how many are you, and what are you putting out, and where does it stand with all that?
I am recording multiple episodes a week. I have recorded about 70 shows and I've put out so far 23.
Wow, that's a lot of shows, Reena. When do you record these all with the kids? Like what time do you do this?
In the evening.
So like after they're asleep, or do you lock them upstairs, or like how does that work?
Well, my husband works all day and then I have like 3 or 4 hours at night and I do client work and podcast.
Good for you. Good for you, sister. I like, you know, have to keep them upstairs and keep them quiet, and weekly is sometimes hard. Weekly can be hard. And I'll go live with Mike. Sometimes we'll do like our conversations and our podcast later, like 10 o'clock, sometimes on the weekends. Like I've become a total podcast junkie. But it's hard to get like a quiet space. And, you know, when as a single mom, you know, if I don't have the kids, that's different. But when I do, you know, I don't want to like yell at them and tell them that the podcast is more important than they are. But, you know, if they could just like stay and play Fortnite and Roblox, that would be awesome. But yeah, that's a lot. So when are you going to release all these?
So last week, I decided to do a takeover week where I aired 5 episodes in 1 week. That was way too many.
It was way too many. Now, why do you think that? Like, what do you think happened? Do you think that it was just too much, like overkill, or like, what do you think happened?
So I think it was too many for me to market. Yeah. It was too many for me to come up with the summaries and get them all up on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, you know.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
You're like way more on top of stuff than I am. Like I'm really casual about it. I just like throw something up on LinkedIn. I mean, not that it's not important to me because I love it, but like it's more of a business, I think, transactional for you. And so it's a lot more, it's a lot more work what you're doing, I think, and more pressure.
Well, what's interesting is that you think more about the purpose of what you're doing once you get in the mix of like doing as many episodes as I have. I think in the beginning, I thought it was going to be more just for fun and for learning and make me a better interviewer and grow my community.
Yep.
But now it's like leading me to clients. Like,
that's what's going to happen. And it's like a little like overwhelming.
Like it led me to another sponsor. It's led me to 2 or 3 people asking about sponsorships. It's led me to people who are now asking me if I can help them do it, which I never even considered doing.
So it's all these different opportunities that are arising now. And that's what happens. It starts to snowball. And then, I mean, I also have, my business, which is annieleap.com. So like, I do that sort of life detox, business professional detox. And it's like, I've gotten some clients out of this, but it's also my networking and things like that. So it starts to snowball. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, I need to slow down for a minute, but I don't want to miss business, so we kind of go back and forth, trying to manage all of it and just, keep it real and not get caught up, like I don't want to make myself crazy. I still want this to be fun.
So last week I made myself a little crazy.
It happened.
And then this week I was like, okay, I need to decide like which episodes I'm going to air, in what order, and get more strategic about who goes with who, is there a theme of the week?
Right.
And
that's what you learn. That's a learning,
Yeah, and it's totally a learning. And then I got all of my interns on. I actually posted on Facebook that I was looking for one more intern, and then I got 3 more.
Oh my God.
And then I was like, okay, now I'm like running a team here. Now I need to decide like, what are the intern strengths? How can they help me? Who wants to do what? And then I've got like the Jewish holidays coming up. So
which is so overwhelming because it's so close together and so much happening. And it's like, I think sort of, Reena, I'm not sure any other way to do it though. That's just how you are. It's like we're cut from that kind of cloth where we don't really know how to do it any other way. If I was sitting around and saying, well, get a guest and it'll happen and maybe I'll post, like it's just not how we work.
Right. And like I've gotten some big stories that have come my way. And like I feel like just from my casting experience, if you don't hop on a big story, they go away. So like I had somebody from Instagram who had 300,000 followers reach out to me, and he said that he wanted to shoot this week. And then the prior week I had a billionaire reach out to me, and he had a book launch coming up. And even though I had all of these other episodes to get out, his book was coming out. So I wanted to get his out.
Reprioritize.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it created a rush and a little bit of undue stress. And then I had to really think about planning things a little bit better.
Well, I mean, it's you seem unbelievably calm. I don't know if it's just for me or like if you did meditation before the episode, but you're like really just even keeled and calm. I'm sort of like, I have to meditate several times a day before I can sort of calm. My wiring is very hyper. So I sort of feel a little stressed hearing about all the things you have going on a little bit. But
it's funny because I have an episode coming out tomorrow, and I connected with this girl through a coaching program that I was one of the accountability coaches for. And she grew up Catholic and then got into witchcraft and Buddhism, and then spent some time in a monastery for a couple of years. And she offered to create a meditation for me. I'm like, that sounds fantastic, because it sounds to me like you have a better connection with God than I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Like, but you have to make the time to do it. You have to schedule the time to do it. That's the thing.
So I reached back out to her today. I was like, look, your episode airs tomorrow, and I'll take you up on that meditation.
Like today. Like, could you get that to me today? Yeah. Well, you have to let me know how that goes, what she gets to you. She's like, a Buddhist. That's like a whole different ball game. That's a whole other world trying to
She lived in a monastery. She wanted to be a nun for 2 years, and now she runs a porn support group for women.
I'm sorry for laughing. I was like, wow, that is
and she feels like that's her mission. Like she came to that.
That's amazing.
There's a lot of women that need it. I was like, God bless you. That's amazing.
Yeah, that really is. I mean, that's somebody that's on a mission. I feel like I'm on a mission to impact the world, and that's a serious, serious mission. So good for her. I'm excited to see that. So tell us if we want to see you and we want to view these. I mean, you don't know the schedule, but how do we find you? Tell the audience, because it's 8/28.
Yeah, so most of my episodes are on my bettercalldaddy.com website, but I have now gotten accepted to iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, TuneIn, and it's been such a beautiful process. Like first I was just accepted to Spotify, and I had to reapply to Apple.
Being excited that you got it. I was so psyched for you.
Each platform I've gotten excited about. So
good.
Now I want Amazon Music, but I got to figure out how to do that. But it's all a learning process, and I'm trying my best to embrace it all.
You are living with Annietude. You're being your best self. That is what you're doing, and you can feel it, and good things are happening to you because you're you're acting as your best self and your true self. So more power to you, girlfriend. You're doing awesome.
Thank you.
So to our viewers, like and subscribe to the Living with Annietude podcast. And that about sums it up, girl. You have anything else to add before we sign off?
Like and subscribe to Better Call Daddy too.
All right, do it. If you're going to make it a twofer, if you're going to do it, right? It was awesome to hang out with you. Hold on one sec. I'm going to keep you after I end the broadcast.
Okay, cool.
Peace, everybody.